We're going to move to Mike Treece, and then Steve Burns after that. We're going to hustle through two presentations for you. This is a one-point judging seminar. If you don't have an NCRS number or you don't sign the sign-up sheet, I'm going to have a hard time giving you that point, but that's my job after this event. This is the second of three such judging, one-point judging schools. That's the word I'm supposed to use, judging school. We're hoping to have another one with an actual car and do a mock judging. I'm not going to say much more about that, except we're looking for someplace between here and Toledo to do that. And that would make it convenient for Carl over there to bring his new car, which is a 57. We're going to focus in on that, see if we can do it with some PowerPoint and the car. But we're looking for a spot to do it that's a little closer to Toledo. So if you've got ideas about that, give me a call right away. And meantime, here's our man from Ohio. And Indiana, he's in like 10 different chapters in the Midwest. Mike Treece. He's going to talk about hoods today.
And we've been criticized in the past that our meetings were pointless, so Tom's giving us a point this time.
That's actually pretty funny.
Okay, I'm going to try and hurry through this, so I'm just going to try and show some different points of the hood as they progress through the years. 53s through 55s were all smooth top. They had an X brace on the 53s and 54s underneath the bottom for support. They would make them a little more rigid. The paint gap was about 1 inch under the hood. The weather stripping stopped right about the corners. They had a S logo in a box about every 39 inches, and a white cord showed at the end on the originals. There you can see the logo in the
What is that, an S? Or a...
Yeah, it's an S inside a box. The hood hinges on the front were double link type. They were marked left and right. They had a hood pop up and a hard rubber bumper at the top or at the front edge to keep them from going down too far. The pop-up spring had an adjustment screw in the center. Kind of see the left and the right. The pictures are a little dark.
What years for that, Mike?
That was 53 through 57, like that. 53s, they added the little piece there for the pop-up spring on there. It wasn't originally on the original hoods. Latches, the driver's side and the passenger side are different. They're a wedge style where the piece from the hood just kind of goes down in and wedges in there. The passenger side had an extension on where the cable come out from the inside of the car and hooked to it. The piece that went down in was on the bolt of the hood there. It had a rubber bumper for a stop when coming down. They were smooth. Some people kind of cut notches in them to kind of help grip, as they had a tendency to kind of work loose after a while. The X brace again is in 54. 54, you can see they molded in the pad for the pop-up. The hood supports, the black oxide washer is one thing to look for in the originals. Some of the lettering, some of them had lettering, some of them didn't, from what I understand. 55, they did away with the X brace under the hood and just went to one straight cross piece in the middle of the hood. And you can see it was molded in even a little different in 55 for the pop-up spring. 56, 57, they put two little ribs down through there, I think for kind of two purposes. One was kind of to break up the big flat area on the hood. Second one, it kind of made the hood a little more rigid, so it had a little more support. 56, 57, they stayed with the cross brace. You can see the pins that went down in the catches, how the 56, 57s were smooth along with 55s, 54s, and 3s. 58 1-year only hood with the washboard. 58s, earlier ones, the prop rod was on the passenger side. The later models was moved to the driver's side. Can't really tell you why. Also in 58, the latches were a little different, and the piece that opens it up, they started out was pretty short. I think they must have had some problems with them coming undone or not working very good, so they extended them out a little longer to make it a little easier, so you didn't have to pull quite so hard on the release knob. Hood latches bolted to the hood a little different.
How good is the judging manual for early and late? Do you know if it points out about when that change was made?
I think it gives you an approximate VIN number. So I don't think there's really a definite time. I mean, it's like everything else, they use parts and one got laid back somewhere, it probably got used a little later, so. The hood hinges were a little different, 58. There's C1 hoods from 58 to 62, some of the differences in them. Very subtle changes, but there is some differences there. Solid lower cross member, which was this piece up in here. Later on, they put a notch in it. They also added a seal across the top to get more air through the radiator. In late 59 they did that. And there it shows the notch, and it had to do for some clearance on some of the radiators, I guess. The catches changed in 59. It was more of a catch or a guillotine type catch rather than the friction catch before, where they just kind of slid down in and pushed up against it, where this actually went in around the knob and held it. The little locks that was on the end of the wires coming out for the locks, there was two different types of bolts. The clutch head and the hex head. There was a cable going to each latch, but both went back into the same knob.
Oh, that's
the pins changed when they changed to that catch more than the hood support for 62 was a little different. The hood hinges, how they, that's the support were attached underneath the fender. Just kind of show you what it was like underneath there. 63 had the recess with the fake grills in them. Also had a hole in the corner to let the water drain back down in when it rained on you when you were out with them. I guess it kept it off the hood and all went inside the car.
It dribbled down in front of the radiator.
As you can see at 53, it had a little extra indentation for that insert that went in there. They clipped the nuts that held them inserts in right around the driver's side of the radiator corner, because they went down in and caught the neck where it come out going to the motor. The hood latches, hood support in the 63. There's your Atwood, your number on the C2s. 63, you had either no hood wedges, 4 hood wedges, or 2 hood wedges, depending on what your VIN number was. That was the 4, there's the 2. The 2 are kind of toward the back. And there's one with no hood wedges. Hoods to about 6,500 had no wedges. From 65 to 7,300 had nut plates were installed and plugged. 73 to 1,400 they said they had 4 wedges, receivers. 1,400, 1,600 coupes, 1,400, 1,900 convertibles had 2 wedges, and the receivers were about 11 inches from the back of the hood. This one here, you can see the holes are plugged when they made the hoods before they put the wedges on there. From what I understand, the earlier ones were painted with hardware on. The later ones was painted without the catches on the back. The cable ran across the back of the firewall, was up with them nice clear plastic supposedly in 63, 64, I think 65 threw up. They changed them to black. And they should be very pliable. The reproductions you get is pretty stiff. The catches for the early mid-years, if you'll notice up here in the corner how this comes out around that, there's just a hole for that protrusion sticking up there. Later on in 65 through 67, whoop, you'll see over here where it's notched to go around it, unlike the 63, 64s. Hinges for the mid-years were all basically the same. 64, they did away with the fake grill inside there. They still had the hole to drain the water. You can see there's no extra indentation for where that should have went down in there on the 64s, so the hoods are different, 63 to 64s. There's no holes in the back in the webbing here for the grill insert where they bolted it to, either in 64. 64 to 65, you can see they smoothed out the backside. There's no indentation at all in the 65s. Smooth hood. You see the small block versus the big block 65, 66 is there. Actually the small block's a 65 and the big block's a 66. You can tell because of the holes right in here for the chrome
Plate.
lettering that went on at 66. There's a 65 big block hood, and you can see there's no openings there.
For the emblem nuts.
Right, and there's the emblem in the 66. And supposedly that's the location where it should be from them measurements right there, from what I've researched. Yeah, there's the difference. The 66s had the holes for the emblems there. Also, early 66 is supposedly, they were some leftover 65 hoods, so the hood prop was on the passenger side. Later 66s they moved it to the driver's side. When supposedly something to do with the air conditioning on the big blocks, it come down and they moved the some parts for the air conditioning inside the hood, and it was supposedly hitting hoses and stuff, so they had to move it over to for clearance. And there's the hole you were talking about right there that they cut in to put the nut plate on the other side.
Actually, I was asking about the holes under the emblem.
Oh, they had to cut them in?
I heard some of them were hand cut.
That's a possibility, good chance. Because I'm sure that they had to do it if they did for this, because they had to put the nut plate in there, moved it over from the other side.
I want you to notice how nice the glue is around the weather strip.
Craftsmanship.
I try and get original pictures whenever I can, so.
That's great.
That glue was, according to John Hinckley, was clear glue. And it turned yellow with time. So when the clear glue was applied, it didn't look so awful. And I think they used about a 3-inch trowel or brush to put this stuff on. And after they get, so today they tell you have to have yellow glue, so everybody's using yellow weather strip adhesive to try to simulate that, which looks even more disgusting.
The grills for 65, 66 for the big block cars. 67, original cars, the stripe was definitely offset to the right, or the driver's side here. You can tell it's closer here than it is over here. I think I may have a little better picture there. There's your glue again, and your weather stripping coming around the edges. L88 hood for 67. The air cleaner was actually in the hood. It drew the air from the back side up in here. Starting to the Sharks, just a basic hood. Big block hood for them, 68, 69s, had to be raised because of the intake had the carburetor up higher and it would not fit underneath the flat hood. And there's a L88 versus a regular 427 hood on the 68. That's 69, I guess, got the inserts in it. Air cleaner was in the hood on the early Sharks too for the L88s. From what I understand, there was 3 different latches in '68. I don't know which one's early, which one's middle, which one's late, but I take it the left one was probably early because it didn't have a return spring on it, and they must have had some problems, and then they changed how the cable hooked up on them later on. And I don't have any numbers of when them were or anything. I know there was 3 different hood latches. Hinges for the C3s. Yeah, they changed 69 too somewhat. But yeah, both sides right here has the return spring on this one. Hood support was on the driver's side. They changed the pins. Why, I don't know. I suppose the 70s knack gripped a little better, caught a little easier in the catches. The cables, from what I understand, they started out in '68 with just the spiral cable. They wasn't coated. Then they went to a black cable. These are 2 clips of the black. And from what I understand, the '68 was just the spiral cable.
I'm not sure about, I can't tell
And
you.
it's
Okay.
also white. The cable's also white.
In '68,
Yeah.
it's just a spiral. It didn't have no coating on it at all. It's just like a spiral cable with the wire running through the center.
Right.
Then they went to the black, and then they went to the white.
No, white was first.
White was first?
Yeah, early '69 was white.
Now, from what I understand, not all '69s had the insulation,
Right.
just some of them did.
Early '69s had it. And it was just a poorly made, poorly cut piece of,
The L80 '69 also had the air cleaner in the hood. You know about the striping on the
no,
difference?
I'm gonna pass it.
Okay.
Nah.
I know there was some different widths. The spacing was a lot different on some of them.
Early 70 was the thick ones,
Early '70 was the thick one.
and then it changed to that.
Okay. And the reason the corners don't match up too good is you can see, you can see this guy here kind of hand laying out the corners right here. So they really are pretty sloppy around. Some of them are, I'll put it like that, not all of them. '72, the hood support changed a little bit. It went to a fold over style rather than just the long one, single piece coming up. They were different lengths, so they hooked in different spots on the hoods. '73 through '75, they did away with the door for the wiper and made the hood extend back over the wipers. It had a louver at the back near the windshield. Had a solenoid to bring fresh air in from the back side. This is the little solenoid that was in the hood. The air cleaner mated right up to the hood. '73 big block. '76 they did away with the solenoid back there bringing the air in. '77 they did away with the louver up there. They also changed the latches, the way they the catches and the latches on the '77. They were a fold over type that mounted on the fender wells, and they just had like a rod that went into them. The hood support was a little different. '78 they did have some small insulation back there, somewhat of an insulation over the motor part. The other thing is on these bumpers right here, they all had a like an X across the top of them, where I don't know if the replacements do that. Base car hood had some striping on it. Mission label and 80 moved up on the hood rather than on the firewall area. They moved to Bowling Green. They must have a little more room for the paint, so they did a little more experimenting with the striping and stuff on them, where they didn't have the room at St. Louis. And collector's edition. '82 also did start off with the crossfire, and they had where the carburetor brought air in through the hood again. but they brought it in at the front instead of the back so you didn't get the noise. And this one you can kind of see the X on it a little better. Hood support was kind of a double jointed one. 84, they still had the crossfire. They brought air in from the front. They had 2 air intakes that made it up to the air cleaner, and the lights under the hood was pushed out way out to the edges on the 84s. There's the air cleaner that the hood made it up to. 84s and early 85s had a fold over on the passenger side. Later 85 said it has no part number on it. The 86 was kind of the same style on early 86, but it was on the driver's side rather than the passenger side. The hinges on the C4s are all date coded. The hood pins, numbers. C4, they had earlier ones had 2 kind of helper shock strut type things, one on both sides of the hood in early C4s. They were also date coded. '84 and '85 had a real fine grain in the lights under the hood, where 86 and later went to a larger cross pattern style. Hood lights were moved in '85 after they did away with the air intake for the crossfires. Most of the hoods, earlier ones, had the Bowling Green emblem on them, the front bottom. 86 basically was like an 85, but on the convertibles they put the lug wrench right up here on this fender well, because they didn't have the compartments behind the seats or any place to put them. Late 86 through 87 they went to a tube type rather than the fold over. There was a little button that you pushed in to release them right in here. Callaway cars had ducting in the hood work that come down on the aftercoolers. 88 supports, instead of having the little button to push in, they had a little piece that kind of slipped out over the tubing. You had to push in to release it, let them down. 88 through 82, they did away with the assist strut on this side and just put one on the passenger side. 93, they did away with a little orange piece in there and just slipped out over. You just pushed it back in to release it and let it drop down. Some of them had the mobile from 93 through 96. Most of them did up to 96, and in 96 they started intermittently putting them on for some reason. Also, on a lot of the C4 hoods you will see this hand scribing on the either on the driver's side or passenger side, right up in the fender, right at the front. It was a date code when it come out of the molding plant. Why they dated them, I have no idea, but they were hand wrote on there.
Does it look like a crayon?
No, it was done with like a engraver.
Really?
Yeah. Grand Sport had the striping on. 94 through 96 they did away with the assist lifts altogether. I don't know why, because the hoods were still the same as heavy. I mean, just, yeah. The 98 pace car hood, 99s. The underhood of the C5s had insulation with the Corvette emblem in there. If you ever judge a 95, watch it, because a lot of people put aftermarkets in there and a lot of them are painted in here. They should just be the natural color. They went to just one under the hood light, kind of toward the passenger side, rather than the 2 like the C4s had. Hinges have got different part numbers on them for left and right, which you should be able to see. They had this rods or struts right there too. They are Julian dated. The insulation was held onto the clips. They should have a number on them. Hood light had fine grooves on these too. That's it.
Mike, thanks for coming up and sharing.
Hope everybody got a little bit of something out of that.